Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Monty. I'm not really here to be in this space for a long period of time. I'm actually just gonna go live because I haven't gone live in a while and having a bit of a conversation with myself. I'm not expecting people to come on to this live stream, but I'm actually doing this live stream to just sort of document a little bit of the journey. I plan to actually do a lot more of it every single day, and probably will start doing a little bit more of that after August 1. But right now it's July, and I'm in the middle of what we would say is the third technical month. But essentially, it's really the second month that we've been operating. The first month, even though this is actually the point of the video. It's really to talk about some of the struggles you don't necessarily know about when it comes to a retail startup. And this is a retail startup in its most interesting infancy. Things they don't tell you, things you just don't hear about, the things you don't necessarily understand. I'm going to start from the beginning. So most startups, when they actually are getting started, start out of a garage. We have a similar story. There's no different. There was a guy in a garage coming up with an idea, and from that idea burgeoned an opportunity to expand the idea to service for a larger community. So to give quick background, we're in a electric bike space where we're doing an electric bike startup, and in doing the electric bike startup, it was really a innovative idea to just be in this space at the right time as the post-pandemic buzz for biking has happened. But that's not what I'm really here to talk about. I'm really here to talk about the struggles you don't hear about when it comes to getting into a startup. And as you get into a startup, retail space is a lot different than traditional startups. I've been in a few traditional startups. Some of them have gone public, some of them haven't gone public, some of them had massive success, some of them had massive failure. I've learned along the way, and I've garnered a level of understanding and perspective of what can and can't be done and what should and shouldn't be done. And I understand a lot more now about how to manifest what you're looking to achieve. When you're sort of vibrating at a higher principle level, it allows you to accomplish and receive a lot more. Even if you don't necessarily understand that you're vibrating at that level, there's still energy, positive energy, negative energy. All those things are factors of how you operate. The words that come out of your mouth, the things you actually hold as your thoughts, the views that you believe and don't believe. A lot of those things result in outcomes. But I digress. Things they don't necessarily tell you about a retail startup, which I think are very interesting. And I'm saying this now because what we're going to be doing is expanding. We've barely gotten the feet under us with the first location, but we're looking at the idea of really going from having one organization or one physical location to a second location already, really possibly three. But that's the difference between a typical retail store or a typical retail shop. Hey, we're just going to have one location to, hey, we're potentially going to have multiple locations with different approaches. Now, there's unique things that we're looking to do with the locations, the unique things that we're going to be doing with the opportunities to expand. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to be doing with this startup that are not what traditional retailers would do in their first year. We're not a traditional retailer. We're not a traditional startup. We're a retail startup doing things with the intention of expanding and impacting things in a unique way. So let me further go back to some of the things that don't necessarily tell you when you're doing a retail startup. This is something that can save you a ton of money and a lot of headache. There's this idea called abatement. What is abatement? Abatement is when you essentially get into your lease contract for your location, assuming you're not, independently wealthy and can purchase your physical facility outright. You're probably going to have a mortgage or a lease. If you have a mortgage, you're probably not going to have a level of abatement. But abatement means that you're not going to be responsible for the rent. Sorry, it says live. You're not going to be responsible for the rent for a set period of time. So it could be 3 months, it could be 1 month, it could be 2 months, it could be whatever the number is. But the abatement essentially says, hey, you're in the beginning phases of your business, and as you're in the beginning phases of the business, you've given your first and last month's rent, or whatever the security deposit has been for your location. A lot of times it is first month's and last month's rent. In some cases, people might take as little as $500. In some cases, they might want an extra deposit, depending on your credit circumstances or your situation. Abatement is a situation where, let's say you've done first and last month's rent. Well, you've already done the first month's rent, so really, the only thing is you next have to pay the next month's rent the following month. So if you started in January, you paid January's rent, you're going to start your next rent payment in February, and so on after that. Now, what abatement is essentially saying, hey, you had let's say you had a 5-year lease. 3 to 5 year leases is typically what people actually get. Let's say you had a 5-year lease. With a 5-year lease, you're going to have a lease for 60 months. The abatement says you've paid first and last month's rent. You now have potentially 3 months. So you start in January, you don't pay in February, you don't pay in March, you don't pay in April. Your first actual payment would be in May. So you go from January to May and not having to make a payment because of the abatement. How does that work on your lease? In some cases, the person just says, hey, I'm going to throw that 3 months in the wash. You don't have to pay that. And on the back end, we're not going to cover it. So your 60-month lease really becomes like a 57-month lease. Most people aren't going to go for that. What most people do go for is a 3-month abatement where your 60-month lease is now a 63-month lease. So it essentially says your first month you've paid, those 3 months are skipped. You start paying in May, but your lease, which commenced on that January, ends 3 months later. So as opposed to it ending in January, it would end in that April. That would be the end, or so April 1st would be your ending. However it's going to be structured, but essentially 3 months are tacked on to the back of your lease. And it's helpful for a startup because during that period of time, you're struggling. You're really trying to get your feet under you. And I'm not saying just start up a retail location. You're going through, and depending on the operation, you're going through the scenario of having to paint, having to clean the floors, having to do your refurbishing of what it takes for you to get ready to have your equipment, your merchandise, all the things that put you in a position so that your business can be up and running on a very seamless, strong basis. I can say in our case, it was a situation where we had a retail space. Again, framing it in the context. So we got it in May, and getting it in May, we started this conversation in the prior year. The prior year, we started the conversation. Started to negotiate, going to see locations, and we came to a location in January. And we're like, all right, this is it. This is what we want. We want that location. That spot's the one. It's the one, January. Did negotiations, met the people, went to the location. All right, we're ready. By February, we had the conversation, give us the contract, we're ready to move forward. Let's execute against that. That process from February did not finish until the 3rd of May. So in context, that was a 3-month period of back and forth where we're essentially just waiting for paperwork or waiting for additional due diligence or waiting for who knows what. I mean, I know what happened. I'm not going to go into details of what happened, but I'm just saying that to say we knew the location we were talking about last year. We started negotiations in January. February is when things kind of heated up. And even after heated up, it didn't finish until May 3rd. And that was a whole nother interesting scenario. Had the craziest possible scenario you could ever imagine. We went into the location. And this is what we say from a Retail Startup Challenge. We went to the location and had someone who had the keys at the same time we had the keys. I'll talk about that later, but I just wanted to give this as a quick heads up about what people actually have as a struggle with retail startups. I'm Monty, and I'll give you another tidbit soon. Bye for now.